Right, so welcome to our session today. It's going to be around 45 minutes long, and we're just going to be looking at communication, language, and effective interactions. I've tried to make it a little bit varied. If you think I'm losing my mind at any point, just bear with me because I promise it will link back eventually. So if we get started. I know there's a few of us. I'm not going to make you put all of your cameras on and introduce yourselves. That's absolutely fine. For those of you that haven't met me before, my name is Lara. I'm our Senior Early Years Manager, so I oversee our Stourbridge and our Amblecote branches, and I've been with Little Hands forever. So if you've got any questions, please let me know. I'm also going to introduce some little friendly faces that we've got here. This is where you need to bear with me because it's going to seem like I'm losing my mind, but they're going to help me through the presentation. So first of all, we've got Kobe, if everybody can see Kobe over here. We have got Paddy. We have got Nico, Kia, and Flump. And for those of you that can see, Nico in the middle is a cat. Nico is a ginger cat. Perfect. So now we've done those introductions, what we want to get out of today's session is to just gain a deeper understanding of communication and language, look at the importance that any and every interaction can have, and to identify what we can do to make them effective interactions and what you guys can do at home as well. So first of all, I thought we'd just have a little bit of a look at what is communication. So simply, if you put it into Google, this is what it comes up. It's split into speaking, listening, and understanding. So the speaking is the action of conveying information or expressing one's feeling in speech. Listening is giving one's attention to sound, and understanding is the ability to understand something, comprehending something. And I think for us as adults, okay, yeah, that might be feasible, that's easy. But I'm sure you guys can put yourselves in the headspace of your little ones, no matter how old they are, and think, well, actually, it's not quite that simple. When a baby's born, they don't just understand exactly what it is that you mean, and they can't speak to say, actually, Mummy, actually, Daddy, I am quite hungry. There's a lot of skills that go into getting to that point. So that's what we're going to be looking at today to kind of see what they need to get them there and how it's going to be effective for them as well, kind of no matter what age your child is. So for those of you that have been with us for a while or been to any of our workshops or maybe even work in the sector, you might be aware that we use the EYFS, which is the Early Years Foundation stage. So essentially that's a little bit like a national curriculum that schools use for nurseries, and that's tailored for children's development, and it's split into different areas. So the areas, there's three, what they call prime areas, and these are the main areas of learning that children need to look at from birth until they're 2 years old. So those areas, you've got physical development, personal, social, and emotional development, and communication and language. So once they've started accessing the curriculum on those areas of learning, they can then move on to the specific areas, which are a little bit in more detail around literacy, maths, understanding the world, and expressive arts of design. The way that they structure it with those being the prime areas, I think really just underpins that it's impossible for a child to kind of learn any kind of literacy until they've got the communication language. So the reason that they're prime areas of learning is that they underpin everything else. So again, if we just look into it a little bit deeper, just so you guys can get that full understanding as well. If you were looking, for instance, at maths, would you be able to understand maths and look at counting skills without any of the prime areas? It wouldn't be possible, because I think for that you'd need to be able to have the confidence to give it a go, which falls into your personal, social, and emotional. You'd need to be able to listen, to hear that repetition from other people, to learn what those numbers are. So obviously a main factor, and what the EYFS states is that communication and language is actually the underpinning factor for the whole curriculum. Nothing would be possible without making progress in communication and language. And I'm hoping you can see a little bit more as we go through as to the importance of that, and obviously why we place such an importance on it as well. I've beat my slide, I've said it already, I do it every time. The EYFS kind of just explains as well that as well as communication and language underpinning all of the areas of learning, it actually sets the foundation for their learning, for their language, and for their development. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be word for word exactly what's in the EYFS that we follow. It's got to do with quality interactions, how many times a day that they're spoken to, what they hear in the environment around them. They're all factors for children being able to develop with their communication and language. And that's why being in an environment that is really rich of those communication and language opportunities, that's where children can really thrive and their development will really start to make that progress that they need. So again, not losing my mind, we're just going to say hello again to our friendly faces to remind you all. We have Kobe, Paddy, Nico, Kia, and Flump. And I've already told you that Nico is a cat. Nico is a ginger cat. Nico says, meow. Bear with me, everybody. So if we carry on looking, obviously, off the back of the EYFS saying, communication and language is incredible. It's this tool that we absolutely, definitely need, and you need to teach it. It's also really important to remember activities aren't enough. So I think a lot of misconception gets put on, especially in nurseries, thinking, oh, well, my child needs to go to nursery because they need to do the activities to be able to learn, which amazing. Activities are brilliant and we can promote many areas of learning. But if I was to just set an activity out and leave it by itself, for instance, in a room, and I wasn't sat down talking to the children, explaining what they can see and really getting stuck in their play, they're not actually going to learn anything. They might have a great time. Let's say if it's this water activity that I've put on the display, they might be splashing, they might get soaked, they might absolutely love it and start scooping things themselves. But are they going to learn any new skills without a familiar face being there to be able to teach them? Or you are scooping or you're splashing and being able to provide that kind of narrative for their play. So while they're a great way to promote children's development, they really need the interactions, the follow-up and the repetition. I think the repetition is the most important part. To you, it might be like, oh, well, we've already been to the park 3 times this week. But actually, each time you go and each time you're saying, oh, you're on the swing, let's push you, 1, 2, 3. You're really repeating those skills for children and they're storing that knowledge to be able to build on it. The first time a child's experienced something, whether that's you saying it's a swing or whether you're doing the counting, that's not them learning it for the first time. It's going to take repetition of that activity and a lot of patience for it to be embedded within their development for them to be able to learn it, which is why patience, repetition, and a lot of interactions is great for their development as well. So interactions can be promoted in a variety of ways, and they make such a difference. You can literally, by commenting on what children are doing, they're going to be building that knowledge. There's going to be a lot going on in the background in their minds thinking, oh, okay, that's what that is. And they can learn through all interactions and every single opportunity. Just because you think, oh, I don't have a spare hour today to set up an activity or we can't go to the park, does not mean your child won't be learning. And for those of you that have got little chatterboxes at home, I'm sure you'll have realised, because they'll be constantly saying it back to you or copying things that you've said, not a lot slips past them. But they will be learning from all opportunities. So I think it's just really making the most of every experience that you can, whether it's just really slowing down your home routine when they're having breakfast to just give that narrative of, oh, you're scooping now, aren't you? What does that taste like for you? Look what colours I can see. Oh, I had that for breakfast yesterday. Because that's already so much more of a richer environment for their communication rather than just sat with their cereal or just watching you pour cereal or whatever it might be, as an example. So some really common ways that you can really promote children's communication and language is through the following. So you can give them really frequent exposure to books. I think this is a key one because it might be introducing them to a different range of like vocab that they don't necessarily have in their everyday lives. It might introduce new concepts to them. It might actually link to their home life if they've done something at the weekend and they see it in a book. That's phenomenal. That's going to stick in there even longer. So just making sure that they've got that exposure, whether that's you reading it or whether them having a look through as well. And obviously that'll go hand in hand with occasions to use and embed new words. So your little ones, fabulous if you're teaching them new words. They really need to practice those skills as well. So even if we're looking at babies, obviously their language isn't as rich as it is when they're in preschool. But if they're learning mum, mumma as an example, you're going to give them that experience. So even at nappy time, for instance, pointing at yourself, mumma, yes, mumma, and really promoting that so they're really getting used to it. Give them the opportunities to learn, give them the opportunities to repeat back to you and see how it feels in their mouth. It might feel very different coming out of their mouth than they expected. They might need to practice it a little while before it really gets there. But the more they can kind of try and practice, the better that's going to be for them in the long run as well. Obviously, we've spoken about back and forth interactions. We know they're amazing. If it was my child, they're going to be a chatterbox because I don't stop talking. The more you can talk, the more you can kind of give them. They're going to use you as that role model to take it back and offer those opportunities back to you as well, as they can through different conversations. And obviously they'll be able to explore, they'll be comfortable, they can practice those different words and pick up that new vocabulary as well. So with that in mind, we're going to do a little bit of a game together, if that's okay. And I'm going to teach you a new word. So as we go through, I'm going to teach you the word gigagay. Has anybody heard of the word gigagay before?
Nope.
No? Good. Okay, perfect. Well, that's the word that I'm going to teach you today. And I want you to kind of imagine you are children. The knowledge that I'm providing you for this new word is brand new information, which is what our children go through on a regular basis while we're teaching them. So I'm just going to show you the power of what I mean by this. So, gigagay, are we ready? This is gigagay. This is not gigagay. Anybody any the wiser? Do we know what gigagay is? I'll carry on and see if anybody can get it. So this over here, this is also gigagay, but this is not. This is definitely not gigagay. No. So this is, but this isn't. Anyone got any guesses for what gigagay is? I'll carry on and do another one. So this is gigagay, but this is not. Okay, so this is gigagay, but this isn't. And I'm just going to do one more to really teach you what gigagay is. This is gigagay, but this is not. So great, now we've learnt it. What's Gigagay? Do we know?
Is it red?
It is! Nice! Perfect. Obviously, you can give me that knowledge because you've got the knowledge. You know what red is, you've picked it up. As we've gone along, you've probably thought, as well as, oh, my life, Lara is crazy and she's teaching our children. Is this the best idea? You've probably thought, right, I need to look for common clues here. I need to use what I can, my powers of observation, to see what matches. So Gigagay is in fact red. But if you could put yourself in the mind of a baby or a toddler who maybe hasn't quite learnt their colours yet, they're just hearing these words for the first time and you're saying, Gigagay, yes, no. It's not really providing that the information carrying, it's not really showing them. It's not really helping. I bet when I first started it, you just thought, Lara, what on earth are you on about? Like this is not helpful. And that's why, obviously, as we went through those slides and you had different comparisons, it was probably a lot easier for you to kind of get to that conclusion. But if you're not quite there with me, or if you don't know what red is, you haven't experienced that before, you're going to be way behind. So obviously for me and my interactions, that was rubbish teaching. You haven't given you any kind of information. I could have offered you, wow, look at the colour. I could have put two together and shown you that it was the same. I didn't give you any context. I didn't expect you to keep up, so I'm very impressed that you did. But I think for me, that's quite a good example as adults to confuse the life out of you, to understand kind of how much we need to strip it back and the importance of it for our little ones. So that said, we'll kind of carry on having a look at what our interactions are all about and how we can make them really beneficial. So going back to earlier, I was talking about the EYFS, which is like our curriculum. That actually underpins in there, while we're talking about the importance of communication and language, it also says in there, by commenting on what children are doing or what they're interested in or echoing back words to them, you will build it effectively. You'll really effectively build their communication and language. So you don't have to be going above and beyond. Your child could say to you, cup, and you could say, yeah, cup. It's giving them that reassurance that they need. It's cemented. Yes, that's a cup. Yes, I know what that is. Right, I've gotten that knowledge. I can move on. It also says that children's back and forth interactions from an early age form the foundations for language and mental development. So the number and quality of conversations that they have with adults and other children throughout a day is crucial. We've already said, without practicing, without being able to get it wrong and learn from it, or even just have it echoed back, they're not going to be learning those new skills. So it's really important that they get the opportunity to practice, whether that's with you as parents, whether it's with other adults in the environment, if you maybe pop to a shop perhaps, or whether it's with children, so they can kind of hear the context that other children use as well. So I thought we'd kind of have a look at some strategies that you can use at home. So there's loads and loads of ways that you can interact with your child to promote their communication language. And I thought here we'd kind of just give you a few ways that you can really tune into your child to give them the best out of that interactions, to just really make sure that they're effective and meaningful and that your child feels heard so that they can carry on as well. So number one, we've listed active listening. So for those of you that haven't heard of it before, it's just really making that conscious effort to make sure you're listening. It's not washing up and being like, yeah, I hear you. It's really tuning into your child and giving them that undivided attention. So it could even be while they're trying to explain something that you're nodding along, you're smiling. So they're thinking, oh, hang on. No, they're actually really engaged with what I'm saying. You can give them really good eye contact, stay down on their level. I think especially as children get older and they're getting a little bit confused with their communication or it's not quite coming out right, they can get quite frustrated. So knowing that you're on their level and you're being patient to try and understand and try and support them through it, it's going to make the world of difference for them to build that resilience and keep on trying to communicate with you. And then just really intently listening to what they're saying. So after they've told you something, asking them like, oh, why do you think that happened? Or oh, what do you mean by that? Or how was that possible? Because then they can obviously build on their communication. They can start explaining, they can use different techniques, and that's when their vocabulary can come into it as well. And they can offer you different details, which will obviously help them as their later development with their storytelling, their building, and getting that school readiness as such. Another technique is reflective listening. So obviously you've done everything we've said under active listening, you're down on the level, you're giving them all the attention that they need, you're nodding along to what they're saying. You can act as a bit of a mirror. So if they're saying, oh, at nursery we had paint and it was green, you can kind of say, oh, wow, you did have green paint at nursery. Just so, oh, okay, like, yeah, she's engaged, she heard what I said, I can carry on now. Just so that they know there's not any judgment there. They can explore things really openly with you and really reflectively. And they know it doesn't matter what I say to them because they're going to listen and they're going to pay attention and they're going to love what I've got to say, which I'm sure most of you absolutely do anyway. Obviously, speaking clearly, using different language that's really understandable for your child to hear. It kind of be the same as me sitting here with my hand over. You're not going to know what I'm saying. You're not going to be learning the information that I'm talking about. I need to make sure that I'm not waffling on about legislations to you guys because it probably goes straight over my head. So same for your children, making sure you're being really clear, really specific. You're using really kind language that's going to set as a really positive role model for them as well. So you are their main role model. They're going to spend all their time with you. So making sure that they feel really respected, really loved, because that's what they're going to then give out to other people as well. You can also use different noticing statements. So if you're praising a child, obviously it's going to make them feel really good about themselves. It's going to let them know what behaviours are positive that you want them to carry on doing. So we use something here, and I always ask the staff, tell me 10 different ways that you can compliment a child, because rather than, I don't know, they might have put something away, they might have tidied it up, and you can say, oh, good job. Like, they know that's positive, but you could still expand on that further. So you could say, I noticed that you put all of your toys away, and that was really good, well done. Because you've offered them so much more language, but you've also offered them then the understanding, so they can understand rather than just good job. What is it I've done that's good? And maybe I could repeat that. I mean, in an ideal world, it'd be great if it worked that well, because your house would be tidy all the time. But at least, obviously, it's starting that bit of headway for their understanding so that they can kind of continue that backwards as well. And then lastly, as I've already said lots, just leading by example. Consider what example it is that you're setting to your little ones. They are going to be looking up to you for almost everything. And while you can't be on your A game all of the time, I think at least for interactions, just being mindful. They're really listening now, and this is a crucial time. They're like a little sponge. They're going to try and absorb everything you can give them. So make sure, keep it in the back of your mind. Am I setting the example that I want to set to my little one? Perfect. So, at nursery, you might be aware, because I think a few of you have attended our other sessions, or you might have spoke about it in the rooms. Along with everything that we've already mentioned and a lot of chatterboxes that we've employed, we also use Makaton as it's like a baby sign language that we'll use to kind of support communication. We'll use the commenting approach. We use something called Early Talk Boost, and we've actually all got an accreditation in a communication friendly setting award. I won't go into loads of details on those now. However, if you're interested, please ask. All of the staff can talk to you about any of these. And we also do really regular workshops and training sessions. So if you are interested, if there's anything you're not heard of, or you just want to learn a little bit more about, please let us know. We can put a session on, or we can make sure it's included when you're spending time with us in the rooms as well. So I'm just going to say hello again to our friendly faces. So this again is Kobe and Paddy and Nico and Kia and Flump, and we know that Nico is a ginger cat, and the cat says meow. Nico, can you all say Nico? You say hello to Nico.
Hello, Nico.
Thank you. Nico, I'm sure he said hello back to you too. Nico, meow. So I'm just going to look at another quick analogy, just so you can kind of see how that learning really impacts the development. So we're going to picture a supermarket. Disclosure before I start, I haven't done this. It's not with children from Little Hands, and I do not intend on doing it either. It's just to kind of give you a little bit of context for what it is that we're talking about. So I want you to imagine that all of us together, we've gone to the supermarket, we've taken 5 children with us, we've taken these 5 children on a trip, and we've just popped to Tesco in town. Popped to big Tesco, 5 children with us. We've said, right, we're going to wait outside by the door. We want you 5 children to go in by yourselves, and I would like you to get us some bread, a loaf of bread and some milk. Okay, off you go, children. In you go. We'll meet you by the exit round the other side. So your children have gone off, they've gone into the supermarket. We've gone round, we're waiting by that door for them. So a little bit of time passes, and then one child comes out in 2 minutes, really quickly. And they've proudly stood there holding a loaf of bread and a carton of milk. Amazing. They've done exactly what we've asked of them. Great. So now we're waiting. We've got one child with us. There's still 4 children inside. So we're waiting, you know, a little bit of time passes. And then the next 2 children, they come out together. So they come out holding hands, and they've come out with their bread, but they haven't got the milk. They've just got a loaf of bread to show us. So we're kind of thinking, oh, okay, what's happened here? Well, at least they've come out, at least they've got something. That's great, you know. So we'll kind of just see what happens. And then we're waiting quite a while for this last child. They're still in there. We're not really sure what's going on. They come out eventually. Sorry, we've got 2 in the shop. One comes out, nothing. They've come out by themselves. They're quite upset. They got a bit confused in the shop. But they've come back to us to say, oh, I don't know. So now we're just waiting for that last child. 15 minutes passes and they don't come back out. So we have to go in and find them. So then if we kind of look, right, we need to break this down, because some children really understood what we were on about, especially that little first one. They came out straight away with what they needed. So what got so wrong and lost in translation that the last one didn't have anything and couldn't even make it out the shop? That's what we kind of need to look at. So when we look into the context of it, we realise the first child that went into the supermarket, they regularly go to Tesco. That's their weekly shop. They go every week with their parents. As they're walking around, they get to hold the shopping list and they get to talk about what it is that they're getting. They do loads of cooking at home, so they know what milk is, they know what bread is, and they know that supermarket really well. They've done that before. So that knowledge was already instilled for them. All they needed to do was go and get it and come back to meet you where it was, because they do it weekly. It's not a massive task. They know what they're used to. The second 2 children, they're friends. So one of them has been to the supermarket before, not loads. They've been to Tesco before, but they mainly go to Aldi. But they've seen Tesco, they know the layout, they've done a little bit of shopping, The other one hasn't been to a shop before, but they think, oh, hang on, I'm going to stay with my friend here and I think I'll be okay because they seem to know what they're doing. So I'll just follow them and I'll know what's going on. So these two children between them, they think, oh, right, okay, so I do know what bread is and I know how to find the bread. So they get that and they think, well, I've never seen milk before. It normally just comes in a cup for us to drink or a bottle for us to drink. So at this point, they're clueless. They're not sure. So they get their loaf of bread and they come out to where they should go. So they made it because they stuck together. The next child that comes out is they're obviously confused when they come out. They don't come out with anything. They're a little bit upset. So they've been to the shop once before. They've not been there any more than that. When they went, they didn't get spoken to while they were in the trolley. They just got pushed around while they watched Peppa Pig on the phone. So they don't know what they're looking for. They don't really do cooking at home. They don't know what bread and milk is. So they're not sure. They're just going to try their best to remember, where did I leave this shop last time? For how can I find my teachers again? How can I get there? So it took them a lot longer to navigate to their safe place, but they came back to us, albeit empty-handed. They didn't know about the bread. They didn't know about the milk, but they were able to make it back. And then that last child, they've never even been to a shop before. They've never had the experience of going to a supermarket. They've never been to that Tesco before. They don't know about bread. They don't know about milk. Everything just arrives on their plate. They eat it. Job's a good one. So when we've sent them into this unfamiliar place to go and get these things, it's panic. Obviously, they can't find what they need, but also the exit's in a different place to the entrance, so they're not even sure how to get out at this point. And I think that's the key thing that we need to consider as well. Everyone's knowledge is so different. So previously, where I was going with the Gigagay scenario, it really depends on your child and their knowledge and what experience they've got. It's not as simple as saying, that's an octopus. It's great if you've looked at that before. If they've got context for what that is, brilliant. But we can't expect our little ones in this massive, fascinating world that we've got to just pick up on everything that we're saying all the time. We are teaching them from scratch everything that they need to know. So I think really taking that context into, well, have we explored this before? Are they going to understand what I'm on about? Can I provide any more clues? Can I give an experience that is going to be even better? Rather than them just having a sandwich that arrives on their plate, we're going to talk about what's in your sandwich and how do you think that's made, and let's go to the shop and see if we can buy the ingredients, because you're adding so much more context for them that they can just naturally grow and build that development as well. So hopefully you're all still with me. And off the back of that, obviously learning is defined as an alteration in long-term memory. If nothing has been altered, then nothing has been learned. So obviously I'm going to need to make an impact with you, with the little ones, for them to be able to say, okay, that is knowledge, because if you asked me that yesterday, I wouldn't have known. But if I keep repeating that, or we kept learning that new skill over time, it's going to be second nature and you're going to understand it. So I think really just looking at that repetition, and this web is what I like to use with our staff as well when I'm kind of talking about these kind of sessions, because if you imagine a child's mind a little bit like that web of learning, it's all going to intertwine, it's going to link to each other, but it's if I just kind of put one thing in there, it's probably going to fall out. I'm going to have to need a lot of different concepts and understanding for it to be stuck in there and be part of that brain development. So by having a language-rich environment, by having those high-quality interactions and learning about different things that we do each day, that is going to support their learning, and that is what's really going to make a massive difference to them. So as we come to the end, I've just got a quick question. because we saw these friendly faces a few times. I think we saw them 4 times throughout the sessions. And I just want to know if anyone can remember their names or any of their names.
The elephant is Flump.
Yeah.
Cat is Nico.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm jumping in. Does anyone else want
No, I
to?
like it.
The dog, I think, was Paddy.
That is very good memory.
I don't remember the other 2.
Okay. It's absolutely fine. It was good try, good remembering.
Was the penguin Cody?
That. I think it was, wasn't it?
It was nice.
What about the frog? I can't remember the frog.
Can't remember. Okay, that's fine. Was there any of them that was particularly more memorable for you? Or is there a reason that it might have just stuck in your brain more, or why you can't necessarily remember our poor little frog?
I think I remember the cat because you said the cat was Ginger and repeated it, and it says meow, so that stuck in my head, I suppose.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I probably definitely sounded like a crazy lady without giving you any context. But again, I think I just wanted to really try and show you the importance that these interactions have. So I did this on a training course ages ago, and the lady that was leading it, I just thought, what is she on about? But there was only one name that I remembered there, and funnily enough, it was Nico, and that's the only thing that I remembered because it was a 2-hour session, and she kept on and on and on, Nico, meow, cat. So obviously it was stuck in my head because she'd said it so many times. And then when she said, "Oh, can you remember the other ones?" I thought, no, because you didn't talk about the other ones. You only spoke about Nico. And I think for me, that really hit home because she said, well, how do you expect your children to learn then? Until they've got that repetition and they've got that information that you're providing them, it's not going to stick. It doesn't stick for us as adults. We need that repetition. Obviously, we need to do it in a bit of a more unusual way or a fun way or a way that they're going to learn, but just keeping on. So although I sounded like a crazy lady, thank you for bearing with me on it. And I hope obviously it's helped you kind of see the impact as well as it can have for our children. So I know that's been quite a whistle-stop tour through communication language, and you are probably fed up of me waffling on. So have you guys got any questions? Is there anything that you particularly wanted to know about in relation to anything that I've said, really?
No questions as such, but it was really good. Thank you. It was very useful. I'll definitely take on board some of that.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. That was lovely.
No worries, thanks, Sophie. Perfect. Well, if you do think of any questions or you want anything, feel free to give either of our branches a call. You can email me directly through the email that's linked with this training. And if you wanted a recap, it will be on our YouTube page by tomorrow as well. But thank you very much for joining.
Thanks so much, Laura.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.